Greetings, everyone. I am Adrienne Lim.
And I am Aiyana Cecilia.
We are here to discuss One for All organization. This will be a nonprofit organization created for us to help our fellow Filipinos to rebuild after disasters. We are prone to national disasters here in the Philippines, and whenever we are hit, we feel the aftershocks of the tragedy every time. There are countless of citizens which struggle to return to normal afterwards.
In addition, we time and time again need to wait on aid to help readjustment. Not everyone has the luxury of time in an emergency, and it takes years for people to recover from the incident. The One for All org could be the solution to our problems. It's a way for us to heal through continuous support. We must be continuously preparing for disasters unseen.
Before we can solve the problem, let's discuss why it is a problem. Typhoon Haiyan, more notably known as Typhoon Yolanda, ravaged the country and left us wounded for years to come. It generally sustained winds over 150 miles an hour. Leyte, one of the places that was hit the hardest, experienced a mix of storm surges, tornadoes, as well as flooding. The country was terribly unprepared as it occurred after the typhoon season. Over 14 million people were affected, and it resulted in over 6,000 deaths. So, how did the government handle the tragedy on the foreground as well as the aftermath? Aiyana, would you like to explain?
Yes, thank you, Adrienne. The storm size was caught 3 days before landfall, and citizens were warned. 2 days before the NNDRMC, or the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, conducted a meeting to prepare, whilst the DILG and DLGUs began to reinforce infrastructure and prepare for the typhoon. They also began to evacuate citizens to temporary storm shelters. And a day before Yolanda, the military was deployed to high-risk areas, and the president at the time, President Benigno Aquino III, made a televised statement for citizens. After the storm, relief goods and supplies were dispatched to areas in need. There were over 250,000 people in evacuation centers. The Foreign Aid Transparency Hub, which is the Philippine government's online information portal for international calamity aid and assistance, was launched. Many countries sent monetary and medical support, though how was recovery down the road? Well, the situation did not alleviate. According to The Guardian, a year after, countless of people were still displaced. Additionally, a study performed by Asian Development Bank found that it would take about 5 years before things could return to normal. How exactly can we change this?
So, how can we help or change this? One for All is a project which aims to provide families an opportunity to rebuild after natural disasters. First, we looked at what a family may have lost in the calamity and what are the basic needs of a family. We looked at how people can restart their lives that were disrupted. We discussed that the main needs were shelter, livelihood, education, and clothing. It's difficult it's a difficult job to coordinate all of these for so many people. So we at One for All would like to create a more centralized system. Now, how does One for All fit into the picture? There are three main objectives in the organization: relocate, rebuild, and revitalize. Relocation will occur preferably before the storm, or we can do relocation after the storm. Rebuilding will come after the storm, and we would help rebuild their homes as well as their lives. Lastly, we would like to revitalize people and give them hope that they will be okay. And because we are one nation, we will be there in support. We hope that this advocacy will be a fully functioning system by 1 to 2 years. First, we would like to gather funds needed, obviously, then proceed in disaster prone to build in disaster prone areas. The final steps would be opening for volunteers, which would help with the everyday operations of the center.
So, why a center? Well, there are no actual permanent evacuation centers, and countless of people live in them for months after a disaster. A center would be able to provide as a permanent evacuation center and provide lodging afterwards. We hope to set up an in house school because children should still receive adequate education in spite of their situation. Lastly, we would like to install a job center as a way for people to find jobs after everything that has happened, as people may lose their livelihoods after such a disaster. With people's aid, they will be able to find placement sooner.
So that is our advocacy, and thank you for listening.